is the Orange Zone, sponsored by Apex Entertainment.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Orange Zone podcast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're happy to have you here. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston. We have Orange Great Lawrence Moten. It's a full crew today. Even have Tommy Rooney, our new intern, who's going to be helping out with Orange Zone social media. So if you see any Instagram reels, Twitter, things of the like, he's going to be heavily involved with that. So we thank him for joining our team too. We're here today to talk about Syracuse men's basketball in the ACC Tournament, among other things. Adrian Autry coming back for another season. Senior day, lots of seniors leaving. There's a lot to get to. But let's start with this Syracuse, FSU tonight, first round of the ACC Tournament. How we feeling?
They're in it. They're there in Charlotte, the ACC Tournament,
They're
first
in.
round. They're in.
There's that.
They're in.
They're in. Yes.
They will play Florida State. They lost to Florida State by 16 in January, but not the exact same Florida State team that they faced a couple months ago. The Noles have lost 4 of their last 5, and they have an interesting situation going on right now where their interim head coach this season is still coaching the team, but they've hired their new head coach for next year. So kind of a lame duck head coach situation. I could see this game going either way. I know that Florida State beat them by a lot in January, but I could see Syracuse winning this game.
Yeah, all I can say is it's a new season. You know, Syracuse has had a rough year all year, and we made it to the tournament. We were worrying about that for the past 3 weeks, and now that we're actually here, it's a new season. Anything's possible, and I'm always bleeding orange, and I'm hoping that we win.
I want to ask you guys 2 questions, and we're going to go around the horn with it. I'm going to start with you, Ashley, and you finish this sentence. A win tonight in the first round of the ACC Tournament for Syracuse men's basketball would mean?
I think it would give some hope. I don't know. We talked about this last week. I don't know if one win in the ACC Tournament is really going to change anyone's perspective on how things went down this year. If they go on a little bit of a run, maybe that's a different story. They have in the bracket, if they are to beat Florida State tonight, they will then advance to take on SMU, which maybe is a good matchup for them. I know they had the heartbreaking loss at the end, but they were up on SMU big. So possibly that could be a matchup that is more favorable to them than some of the other teams in the league right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the whole thing. Like I said just now, it's a new season, and a win to me would mean nothing. A championship ACC tournament would mean everything. It would actually change the trajectory of the whole season and how this year has been going. So if we could somehow pull that off, that would be amazing.
Would you be surprised if the basketball season ended tonight, either of you?
I wouldn't, but I don't want it to be. Like I said, NC State last year, nobody expected them to get in the tournament, in the ACC tournament. They got in, and they made it to the Final Four. So I'm always one to bleed orange, and I'm always one to say anything's possible.
Yeah, and NC State not even in it this year. Funny
Yeah.
how things change.
Right?
Exactly.
No, that is honestly really eerie to think about in a way.
Exactly.
No, honestly, I really respect that answer. He's like, one win would mean nothing. That's a good answer if you really think about it. Because honestly, I think I feel the same way. One win, okay, could have been luck, could have been anything. This was a game that was sort of anybody's game to win from the first place. But honestly, if they were able to win that game and then win against SMU, which to your point, actually, in my opinion, is a great draw.
Yeah.
And I thought they played against them really well and absolutely could beat them. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're going to beat Duke and, probably not. No.
Yeah.
But but like honestly, if they could go on a run, maybe that's a little bit more, heart or a little bit more hustle or something that fans can take away. Let's go the reverse tonight. If, a loss tonight for Syracuse men's basketball in the first round would mean what to you?
I just think it's forgettable. It's the cap to a forgettable season, right? Losing in the first round of the ACC tournament, nobody's even going to remember that they made it there, it's been this hyped up thing. Are they going to make the ACC tournament? Are they not? If they're out in the first round, it's over. It's lacrosse season. See you next fall.
It would mean let's go Syracuse men's lacrosse and women's lacrosse.
Right.
Yeah, it will be truly tough. This is actually, let's keep it real, the worst record we've had in Syracuse history, and it'll be finally over, and thank God it'll be over. And all I can say is, just try to do the best you can, work hard tonight, and let the chips fall where they may. But I can say back to the brackets, how they're mapped out in the ACC. Having, is it Louisville, the 2 seed?
Yes.
I'd rather be on that side than the Duke side.
Preach.
So,
I completely agree.
So anything is possible.
I agree. Honestly, from a bracket standpoint, it's not a bad draw. But again, you have to get past tonight and that first win to be able to even talk about any of the other things going on here.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, to your point, I think that to me, a loss tonight would mean it's over. And at least that's the one positive.
Yeah.
It's over. And now people can focus, fans can focus, this program can focus on the next season and what is to come in the future, because hopefully there is more waiting on the other side. It kind of transitions us into our next topic. Again, we're recording this on a Tuesday, so the game is taking place tonight. Sorry, not the best timing, but we'll obviously be back with a recap no matter what happens. What do you got?
I got something that's very important, and it's a tough feeling for the students. Let's talk about the students of the University of Syracuse who haven't been to an NCAA tournament in 4 years. That's very tough to deal with, and I feel bad that they don't get a chance to actually get that NCAA March Madness feel. But like you said, once it's over, and start off to a new beginning.
Yeah, I believe this is the first graduating class at Syracuse that will have not seen an NCAA tournament berth in their 4 years.
And will not.
Syracuse and will not.
Did not and will not.
Right.
That is crazy when you think about it, because you're right. It's like, even though the students aren't on the team, everybody who's in Syracuse and involved in this community feels like a little part of the Syracuse men's basketball team belongs to them.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I am sure there are fans who came here, students who came here maybe, who had parents who went here, or someone encouraged them to go to Syracuse. And there's no way that a part of that decision isn't sports, even if it's a little part, and knowing what atmosphere and environment exists here.
Yes.
You said you want to talk about the students. Like, I want to talk about the way it just felt in there. Like, it was the regular season finale at the Dome, and it was like ghoulish. It was like there was, it felt like there were ghosts in there.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was spooky.
Yeah.
It was really empty. It really was. I can't sugarcoat it at all.
Yeah.
To say that this basketball season has been a nightmare, it's right. You want to see them win a game, but to say that there will be some relief when it's over is true, I think, right? I mean, it's just been such a nightmare of a season with, speculation on what's going to happen. Now we know what's going to happen next year in terms of Autry coming back, but I think for a lot of Syracuse fans, it's just a season to forget. It's a season people want to forget.
100% agree.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens, but to Ashley's point, kind of segues us into the next thing. Adrian Autry will be with the program next year, by all accounts, as far as we know right now. John Wildhack was on a local Syracuse radio show, and he ultimately said that he does plan on having Adrian Autry come back next season, and Ashley has sort of some of the specific quotes on that.
Yes, I think we all expected this, right? We all said that we kind of expected him to get a third year. There was no way that they were going to cut ties with him after 2. He said on the radio show, quote, Adrian will be back next year, but that comes with expectations. And then he also went on to touch on the NIL part of things, right? Because that's something that has been brought to fans' attention with the Mike Waters article. $2 million for the season this year. Do they really have the money and the resources to compete in the ACC and in the national landscape? Because if they don't and they bring Adrian Autry back next year, I think fans are looking at it like, well, what's going to change? What's going to be different here? Obviously, the roster is going to be a lot different because we'll get into that. There's going to be a lot of players that are not going to be on this team next year. But Wildhack made an interesting comment about the NIL saying, quote, any neutral site game that we play going forward, there needs to be some kind of NIL or revenue coming back to the men's basketball program. The days of us going to the Bahamas and we pay to go to the Bahamas and get a few rooms, those days are over. I will not do that. We will not do that. Anything we do in that way is going to benefit the program, either the operating budget or the NIL. And he's also said, notably, that Syracuse kind of has 3 NIL collectives right now, that they will be consolidating all of that into one pool, which I definitely think is the smarter choice. Right now, it's very confusing.
It's a disaster
For Syracuse fans in NIL. You got the football stuff, you got the Orange United. It needs to be consolidated. People, if they want to give their money, don't even know who to give it to.
Yeah. Yeah,
people need to know where their money's going. That's what it comes down to. Like, if people are going to give their money away, they have to know where it is going to be allocated to.
Yes.
And it is on the onus of the university to make it clear where the hell the money's going.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy to hear that. That is honestly a positive step in the right direction. Because that was another thing I was thinking about. I don't know if you guys thought about this year, but with ticket sales down and concession stand sales down and all this stuff, like that's all money they now lost and put them back further.
I would have to imagine, we do not have any numbers behind it, but I would have to imagine that the men's basketball program, with the lack of attendance this year, had to lose revenue in a sense.
Oh, it definitely lost revenue. Let's keep it real. But in order to compete, I'm going to keep saying it, I think you have to have 20 million or more to compete with the big guys and get the proper recruits that are going to fit our style of play. And next year, I honestly believe that their team will definitely be better, with Carmelo's son and these incoming freshman guys that are coming in, and even some of the guys that we have here now, with Donnie and Chopper. Hopefully they don't leave, and JJ coming back. It should be a better team for sure.
Yeah, I think you look at next year's roster with who they're losing, right? Eddie Lampkin, a senior. They're going to need a big man again. They're going to need a center at this point. That's probably coming in the portal. So it's that hunt for the center in the portal that they went through last year. Like you said, hopefully Donnie stays. Hopefully Choppa stays. You got Cayenne and Sadiq White coming in. Hopefully, they can pony up the money for JJ to stay. But we saw what JJ was making this year, and it was not competitive in the landscape. So hopefully somebody steps up and they can pay him. Otherwise, you have a whole bunch of guys leaving, which I know you have pulled up.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the picture here from Senior Day, and there are others, but, some of the big names that we talk about on this show frequently are Kyle Cuff, Lucas Taylor, Jaquan Carlos, Eddie Lampkin Jr., and Naheem McLeod. I'll throw in there as well, as a couple other walk-ons and whoever else. But congratulations to all those seniors, by the way. Everybody, big or small, played a role and contributed. So
Absolutely.
Congratulations to them. But yeah, I mean, those were some, real legit decent contributors, especially obviously Eddie
Starters,
Lampkin. Yeah, contributors, starters, people who mattered on this team. So in a sense, Moten said this before the show even started, but it is going to be a completely different team.
Yeah, totally different. I look at all those guys. They did the best they could. Back to the $2 million that we only had in NIL to deal with. You get what you pay for. Lampkin ended up having a solid year. But honestly, I'll keep saying it. Lampkin is a great backup center. He's not a starting center to me. Let me keep it real, but he's a great backup center. And as the year went on, he gradually got better.
Yeah, I think something for Autry and his staff to prioritize in the portal this year with who they bring in too, especially having such a young team that they'll be retaining, right? Incoming freshmen, maybe some sophomores, maybe you bring back JJ and then he's your lone senior. I think they need to prioritize guys in the portal who have that veteran experience, like a Lampkin or something, but maybe have 2 years of eligibility left. I think you see this year, right? Everybody that they brought in out of the portal last year is a graduating senior. Carlos, Lampkin, Jair Davis, Lucas Taylor, Jaquan Carlos. They all had 1 year left. I think if I'm Autry's staff, I'm looking for guys that can be here for a year or two. Obviously, the landscape's so different now, but at least have that option to be here for a couple of years so it's not just a 1 year rental off the bat.
Yes.
I know what you mean. I see that from both sides, honestly, though. Like, listen, would I have taken Kyle McCord for 1 year over no years?
Well,
sure would.
Right, if it's Kyle McCord.
Or a Kyle McCord caliber player. Like, if it's somebody great and all you can get is 1 year, I'm fine with that. But I definitely agree about your point that I think the best rosters in college basketball right now have balance. Yeah. You have people who are coming in from the portal, but you also have some younger guys who you can develop and retain, hopefully. And right now, with the way things are looking, it is feeling like they need some vets. They need some leadership. Yep. They need some people with experience. I, too, am excited about the freshman class that they have coming in, but you can't necessarily expect that even the best, most talented freshmen are, A, going to be prepared immediately to play at the college level. I think that is a risk. And B, that they would have the leadership skills developed or anything like that. I think you need some people who are just a little older and who can guide the ship in the direction that it needs to go.
That's a great point, Sam. I agree with that 100%. You definitely need some veteran leadership. So we'll see how these guys do. This is Adrian's third year. Along with being a head coach, you got to be a good recruiter also. So hopefully he brings the right pieces in here to make this thing get back on the winning track.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a little bit of credit also just to John Wildhack in the sense that he did say, hey, Autry is staying, but things need to change.
There are expectations.
Yes, there are expectations, and the way that I took that to mean, again, this is just my interpretation, but I took that to mean, if there aren't legitimate improvements seen next season, the possibility of changes are on the way. Again, he did not say that. That's how I interpreted it.
I interpreted it as, let's be real here, as you'd say, Moten, it has to be NCAA tournament or bust next year. It's been 4 years. Next year will be the 3rd year of Autry, the 5th season. If they miss the tournament, I think it has to be tournament or bust.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm on the old Al Davis tip, just win, baby. And we have to win, plain and simple. When you win, good things happen. When you lose, they start pointing the finger.
I think the danger of next year is, right, so Autry's first season, 20 wins, not remarkable, but certainly good enough for a head coach in his first year. Nobody felt bad after that first year. This year, as we know, things went off the rails, kind of a disaster. It was a disaster, worst record since the Boeheim era. Next year, you hit a dangerous point because it's like, okay, I just said I think it's tournament or bust. I think most fans feel that way. What if it's, on par with the first year? What if it's 20 wins, won a few games in the ACC tournament, but bubble team didn't quite make it into March Madness? That's, I think, a dangerous point, because at that point, it's like, do you fire Autry? Mm-hmm. Do you keep looking? Was that good enough? What is John Wildhack's threshold? He's not going to tell us. We're not going to know. I took expectations to mean tournament, but I think that pretty good realm is the dangerous part.
Yes, and it's all about a team effort. When I say a team effort, it's not just solely on Adrian Autry. We got Alex Klein, who's the GM, who will be looked at, and all the assistant coaches. All those guys have to come together and try to make this thing work. And I saw something yesterday that was interesting to me. I don't know if you guys saw it. Steph Curry. Steph Curry is the GM of Dayton now.
I did see that.
So, Melo, come on home if you want to come home. Your son is going to be here. So, hey, you got good contacts. You know a lot of people. I'm just keeping it real.
That's his one. Always. When he looks at the camera,
addressing someone.
Yeah. He's drawing someone in.
Yeah.
He's trying to recruit someone.
Dropping a jewel.
Well, and that'll be interesting, right? Because we know, even if he doesn't have that formal title, which he won't probably next season, but Melo will be heavily involved with his son up here. So I think the changes that brings will be interesting to see.
But that's also why there's pressure, because you have a gigantic opportunity here. If you're Autry and Syracuse men's basketball, you got Carmelo Anthony. If you're not able to keep him and retain him, and that turns into a disaster, now I think you really have a problem. I really do think how that all works out with Anthony is going to change, the course of how long Autry is able to stay here for. I truly believe that.
Yeah, that could be his sink or swim.
Yep.
I completely agree with you, even if now we're just playing hypothetical games. But like I said, it's like a pretty good season next year, but something happens where if Carmelo Anthony hits the transfer portal, things have taken a turn for the worse.
Yeah, Autry may be transferring too at that point.
Right.
I don't know what else could happen after that. Because again, I just think it's such a big opportunity. And you know what? To Moten's point, I did want to bring this up. I agree, and I want to make sure people know that I don't think that it is just Adrian Autry's fault. I really don't. And I think the NIL played such a significant role, but maybe we didn't even realize how significant it was until that Mike Waters article dropped. Because in the weeks and months since, I feel like people have been going, probably been weeks, but like people have just been going crazy thinking about, well, how could we be so far behind?
Yeah.
And this is not at all a knock on Boeheim, so nobody take it that way. I think this is just the truth. When NIL was sort of in its beginnings and Boeheim was still here, he was, to quote you, squarely in the camp of somebody who just wasn't really a believer in that, quote unquote. He was more of a traditionalist. He thought it was sort of old school. He sort of thought it was messing up the game. And I understand still to this day why people feel that way. But that mindset, I believe, trickled into what situation we have today, where Syracuse is behind, and it's clear that they are sort of a few years behind where other programs in the ACC may be. I just wonder why that is, and I don't think it's completely Autry's fault. And it is sort of a tough situation to think that he now, with the resources that he ultimately had to figure out what to do here. Like, it's not his fault if he couldn't pay for stuff, but someone else should have given him the money. You know what I mean?
I agree with you, and that I think Autry had limited resources, and that is a contributor to this. At the same time, he constructed the roster. Was he limited in what he was able to do? Absolutely. I think fans have an issue with the roster construction. I think fans have an issue with some of his in-game coaching style. I think there's a lot of things at play, and I don't think it's just Autry's fault. What I will raise you that I think is interesting is that the ACC as a conference has lost essentially every long-term old head coach that they had in the Boeheim era, right? Coach K is out. Everybody's out. The guy from Florida State who left this year, Miami, Jim Larinaga. There's more. Every old head coach, longtime, legendary guy is no longer. So what were those programs doing to remain competitive? I mean, Duke at the forefront of that argument, right? They lost Coach K a year or two right around when Syracuse lost Boeheim, and they're a national championship contender this year.
No doubt about it.
So I guess what fans are interested in is where does Syracuse fall behind there when it's not exactly a unique situation that they're in, right? Other teams in the conference have figured it out in the last 5 years how to move on from that coaching switch and modernize and be competitive in NIL, and Syracuse hasn't.
Yeah, you're right, Ashley. We haven't figured it out yet. Hopefully we come to our senses, and I'm going back to the recruiting and, the GM and coaching staff, all those guys got to really buckle down and try to figure this thing out. But at the end of the day, we got to have the bread. We got to have the money. It's going to take money now. That's the reality of college basketball. To be able to be a top contender, you have to have the proper resources, and it's all about the money.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll die on the hill that it's actually a split between two things. You need the bread, but you also need it also depends equally as much on the personality and style of the head coach.
Yes.
I really think it's both of those things, because you can have all the money, but if kids don't feel compelled by the coaching style or don't feel like they would fit in with the culture of the program, not going to work. Same thing. Culture of the program works, but there's no money to give out. They can go anywhere else that's going to give them more. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. The style of the head coach is definitely important. And I'll go to great head coach at Colorado, Deion Sanders. And he said with this new portal and recruiting and everything, and I'll say it again, if you're going to be on my team, the last thing I want you to do, the first thing you shouldn't do, the first thing you shouldn't do is ask me how much we got. I don't want you, Ask me how you can help this team be successful. Ask me what your role will be as a player into helping this team and this organization be successful. But if you're asking for the money off the top, I don't want you. That's just me personally.
And I'll make the obvious comparison, right? We say it every time. Deion's employing that. Fran Brown's obviously employing it to some sense because Syracuse football in the class of 2026 is in on all these 5 stars, 4 stars that that the other schools, right? These guys are releasing their top 5. It's SEC schools, it's Big Ten schools, and then Syracuse. So Fran Brown, as we know, is operating with less than some of those schools. Clearly, he's doing something right in that area.
Fran is doing a great job. I got a chance to meet him at the final game. He was at the game.
Really?
That's awesome.
How'd that go?
Yeah. That went well. I just let him know, how appreciative I was of him being a coach and coming in here with this new personality and this new fire. And, even Wildhack, we talked, and he talked about, building a village, and it's very important to have the village, but it's also important to have the foundation. People that went there and staying in contact with the university and the organization, and but he's a great guy, and I wish the best for him. He did say it's going to be a tough season coming up, but I did, and I looked him dead in his eyes and I said, "What do you expect? Hey, you brought this on yourself.
Hardest schedule in the country. Let's go.
Yep.
Oh my God! Woo! Got to gear up for that. Get hot just thinking about that.
Oh,
honestly.
I know.
Woo. Anything else that you guys want to say? Final thoughts, then we'll get out of here.
Final thoughts. Let's get a win tonight. And let's try to shock the world and win this whole thing. Why not, damn it?
I love that.
I'll double down on that and just say, just show me a full game of basketball.
Okay.
Go out there and just play in a way where at least fans can say, hey, that's all they had to give. Can't ask for more than that in this world.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate you being here. Like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next week, potentially sooner. We'll see what happens with the ACC tournament. Thanks again for joining us.